Okay, good morning. My name is Dani Henderson. I am a spiritual therapist. And today my beautiful friend joins me, Andrea Foulkes, for part two, because the other day we got interrupted by a tree that was in a very fragile position in my garden in the jungle in Costa Rica. And the men had to go up on ropes, and it was like watching Tarzan, but kind of not really. They're gorgeous men, but they're the size of 9-year-old boys. Tarzan's much bigger. And it was quite the thing. And then it turns out that you yourself, Andrea, had a bit of a problem in the jungle there.
I'm in the midst of a tree issue myself. I have this gorgeous, you can only just about see it if I get out of the way. This is a plum tree here. And I have quite a story about the plum tree. When I broke my ankle the other year, I was doing a healing session with a friend, and she said, you need to let go of everyone who's been draining you and exhausting you. And with that, there was a massive crash and a massive branch of the plum tree fell off. Wow. But yesterday, I was getting this whole thing about the plum tree, thinking I've got to pick these plums. I've never made jam in my life. I don't make jam, but I'm about to make jam. God knows how that'll go. But anyway, I was really worrying about this tree. And when I came home, two massive pieces of the tree have split. And you can't see, but the plum tree's all on the floor. And then there's actually a hole in my plum tree that's turned out to be a heart shape in the plum tree. And I've been tipping water down it to try and rejuvenate it. But I think the plum tree, this could be its last harvest. And we're talking about grief. And then I was feeling grief for the plum tree, like, oh my God, this could be the plum tree's last harvest. And also trees are trying to save themselves. They'll just knock off a branch or, to try to keep living. If they're meant to keep living, they're going to release things. And I suppose that's what we have to do as humans. We've got to, in the work that we do, we're helping people to turf out bits of themselves that are not serving them,
and return
legs, bits of themselves. No, not arms and legs, but just emotional states that are not serving them, so they can return to keep flourishing, like the tree that they are, really. Yeah, so there's a big thing going on with the trees. And then, since we spoke the other day, which was the 7th of August 2022, then we had the 8/8 Lionsgate portal. And then I found this fascinating, because I did think on such a powerful day like the 8/8, I wonder who'll pass away on the 8/8. And of course, I'm sure you're the same as me. I was a big Olivia Newton-John fan. I was in tears when I heard she passed, absolutely grief-stricken for a few hours. And I think a lot of people were. And I think, that's another interesting thing to talk about, grief of people who've been our friends and families, but also the grief that we feel about people who often we've never met them. We've just been exposed to their beautiful work and sharing.
So a few things there, so interesting as well. You always conjure up so many thoughts in my mind, you beautiful being. It's so sad to me too that darling Olivia Newton-John passed away. Now, I'm going to be very straightforward here. There are so many evil scumbags, like filthy, dirty, soulless, horrible mofos in every genre, including BoobTube. Last week, I caught the sight of, it was Olivia Newton-John, R.I.P. And I'm like, oh my God, last week, not on the 8th, right? That's why I'm saying dirty, filthy, disgusting scumbags, yeah? And I go to it and I'm reading it, and this filth, they've written up, oh, so sad, her family members passed away 2 years ago, 3 years ago. How disgusting. Shame on your ass. And I hope your mum is watching you, stinky people. It's disgusting to get headlines to try and loosh the adrenal, like, oh my God, not Olivia Newton-John. Anyway, that then took me on a journey into, I love 60 Minutes Australia. That's one thing I do watch. I love the Australians, and I love the reporting because they're so elegant, like our stuck up, you know, proper British people all trussed up, you know, and we can't say this and we can't say that. And, you know, the man politician, you know, Bob along, Bob, are you gay? No, I'm Bob and I'm not gay and neither's my boyfriend, you know, you know, all the way the silly British can be, the pomp and ceremony. So the Australians present themselves, you know, in their dress the same way, but they'll say something, didn't that piss you off? You know, like in their one-to-one interviews. I love their style. And so I watched a couple of episodes on Olivia Newton-John being interviewed, and she was talking about the fact that she had breast cancer, and then her little girl, who's in her 30s, you know, her baby girl, you know, was also on there, and it was very sad to watch her and her own struggle. But it was just, Olivia Newton-John was just so full of life. She beamed. It just beamed through her eyes, her soul. She was one of those, wasn't she? And what a voice, yeah. What a voice, and what a teenage dream for so many boys when Grease came out. That was the first movie I ever properly saw at the cinema.
Me too. My mum took me and my friends, you know, it was a big thing going to the cinema, and we saw Grease, and I was like, wow, because this was amazing, you know, and I kept playing her songs for quite a while recently, and I loved one of her Dancing About, singing Magic, but it was like she was just, I mean, if there was an angelic being, it was her. She was just this radiant presentation of ultimate twinkles and magic and whatever it was. She embodied that, didn't she, in her goodness and being. Yeah. But even she went through a difficult time, because she had, I mean, this is the thing about people who are in the public eye. We know about them, and then we grieve, a bit like Princess Diana, wasn't the grief that came out during that time?
Yeah.
You know, people who've touched our lives, because, you know, the beginning of part one, we were talking about grief. And with Olivia Newton-John, I wonder if she ever resolved that within herself, because she had a partner who went missing. He just disappeared.
And then there was rumors that he turned up and he just done his own kind of like, you know, bye-bye. Was it Walter Mitty? So who knows? But yeah, she's definitely been through. I could never sing. That's one song I would love to be able to sing properly, Hopelessly Devoted. I love that song. When I was in America where are we? We're in a new year, right? What year is it? Oh, we're in August. I think I was in California last year, and I was with my friend Diane Forster, who's one of the world's greatest life coaches. And we were singing and dancing to, after maybe 2 glasses of white wine, everybody, Xanadu. Xanadu, do, Xanadu. Now you are here. Yeah. She's not going to ask us to be backing singers. But that's what I mean. Like, her music's so happy, isn't it? It's so happy and jolly.
And the other one, you know, this Magic one that I'm obsessed with at the moment. But, you know, when you listen to the lyrics, it's like, you know, because the lyrics nowadays, they're so negative in so many of them. But she was singing, you have to believe you are magic.
Yeah.
Nothing can stand in your way, you know, and it's true. Nothing can stand in your way. You are magic. You can be this amazing being.
Yeah, and it's so emotional. Yeah, no, you're right. She really was. We love you, Olivia Newton-John. Sending you love to your beautiful soul in the heavens, where you surely are. God love it.
Here's another fascinating bit of intrigue linked to her, but more of a negative. But she can't be responsible for who her ancestors were. I think it was her grandfather or great-grandfather invented the nuclear bomb. So, you know, the thing is, you know, when we're on a bit of a Debbie Downer about certain families, but you as a soul can come into a family lineage that's quite negative, but you can be like this high vibrational, sort of special being that's come to change the energy of that lineage, can't you?
Absolutely. And again, you know, but people say this person invented the nuclear bomb. Well, those that claim that Marconi invented the radio and the radio wave, that's actually not true, because Nikola Tesla actually allowed, or Marconi took and used between 9 and 11 of Tesla's own patents in order to get the signal from America to the UK, to Europe. So you know, there again, we have it. We never truly know because so many people lie, don't they? Or grab headlines, or, you know, like Darwin, like we said the other day, you know, Darwin gets the credit for everything to do with survival of the fittest and all these years of work and study and suffering in the Galapagos Islands in the middle of the very ocean, right? But it was largely down to a couple of the students or scholars under him, Wallace Arnold or Arnold Wallace, who did a lot of the gathering for that exact, you know, that repertoire of survival of the fittest. So, you know, there are many, there are many. It's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to you. I helped create one of the greatest hair product companies on the entire planet to this day. And when I watched one of those silly reality shows and I see my products in someone's bathroom shelf, it still pisses me off slightly. I used to burn raw because I don't get a single penny because the guy that runs it totally ripped me and my family off. So things like that do piss you off. But you know, and I don't ever want to say, you know, I still don't wish anyone that's shafted on me. I don't want to say, you know, what goes around comes around. I think there's curse words in that. And the other thing is this, people say karma's a bitch. I've said it myself, but I think you're mentioning words and things that we say. And I think it's more important at the moment to be really cognizant of what we do say and what we do think. And that we're so used to repeating, répétez-toi, répétez-vous, all these things we've heard, all these urban myths, and we just automatically respond. It's a program. It's a program, you know?
Yeah, and I've seen karma come right round once. I won't go into the story of what this girl did to me, but I saw her in the street one day in London and I thought, be gracious, go and say hello, you know, go over and speak to her. And I said, you know, would you like to have a coffee? And while we were having the coffee, she always loved her phone, but she had like the latest phone. She popped it on the table. And while we were chatting, a Big Issue seller came over and I said, no, I've already bought the Big Issue, thanks.
Can you tell us what the Big Issue is, please, to those that don't know, because it's wonderful.
The Big Issue. The Big Issue is like a magazine created to help homeless people sell the big issue. And it has all kinds of articles about all kinds of things in, but predominantly it's sold by people who are financially struggling or should be homeless. And it helps them to earn a living, get some self-worth, confidence, and dignity. So that's the Big Issue. So he's selling the Big Issue and plonks it down on the table. And when he lifts them up and goes, he's taken her phone with him. And I know you shouldn't laugh, but I just thought, karma's quick.
Oh dear, oh dear.
You know, so sometimes you don't always get to see what happens to someone who may have done something to you, but sometimes you do. And you know, we don't wish them any harm, you know, so there's nothing harmful happened to it. It's just, you know, I was like, that's interesting how the universe came and took that away while I'm sat here.
Yeah, I know exactly. And it is, you know, I had a really difficult, dreadful, atrocious house guest recently that behaved absolutely abominably. And at one moment, this dreadful situation, this person was coming out of the bathroom and slammed down on her ass really hard on the tile floor. Now my instant reaction is, oh my God, are you okay? And to run and to help, of course. But in my mind, I'm like, the universe just put you on your ass. And that truly, for that person in that situation, was where that person needed to be put. But again, like I say, truly, you know, saying like people like you and I, you know, us white witches, us wise women, us women of metaphysics, us women who have seen the dark, seen the light, you know, sit in residence as in servitude to people to help them, you know, with our one-to-one sessions. I know I have to be careful with my words. Yeah. And the other thing is, you know, these witches, these women, they go, oh yeah, let me put a spell on so-and-so, which in itself is pure evil. I feel so sorry for the women, the witches generally, you know, all the warlocks, the men that do it, the stupidness in their mind that they think that just because they're paid to do a spell, that energy is not going to come back to them. Are they crazy? I think
if the person they're sending that to is in pure neutrality about that person, it won't touch you. So, you know, people shouldn't worry about that. It's funny because before I spoke to you, I was speaking to somebody who, again, I find, because we were talking about angels before, I was talking to someone who works for this foundation, for the Emanuel Swedenborg Foundation, and he was a mystic from the 1600s to the late 1700s, this mystical man. And I think there's all these amazing mystics that, you know, like Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock Holmes, he was a great mystic, but they had to hide all their mystical nut stuff. And I don't know if you ever came across a lady called Estelle Roberts. She was around, I think, around the early 1900s in the UK, but she filled out, I mean, I've seen photographs of it, she filled out the whole of the Albert Hall giving mystical readings, you know, and this is back in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
So in some ways it's kind of like we've gone backwards, but I think we're going forwards again now.
Well, if you remember in the day of Estelle and Madame Blavatsky, you know, it was very, very common for, you know, they called them parlor tricks. You'd sit in your Victorian parlor room, and you'd have your friends over, and you'd be so entertained by holding a seance, and you'd all link pinky fingers. Anyone that does that, seriously, do not do that. But in those days, the medium, him or herself, would use their physical body. And I wondered to myself, is it because now the planet energy is less dense than it was? But at the time, they could create literal ectoplasm from their own beingnesses. And then we would see ghosts and spirits that would hold a frequency where other, you know, entities or angels or beings could come through. And it was very, very popular. But a lot of those female mediums in particular, they would get burnt, literally burnt. It would burn their skin. It was dangerous. They were, in part, some of them, the trailblazers of our time. But, you know, you and I in these days are sitting on stages and, you know, as mediums and holding audience. I haven't done that for a long, long time. A long, long time.
No,
yeah, I did that last in a church in England. Was I in England? Yeah, I forget which country I'm in. But the other day we were talking about angels, and we were going to continue. So let's start with you and your angel story.
Well, let me think of another one. There's so many, I think. I mean, it's like I had a client the other day, and carrying on with that ectoplasm thing, I've seen ectoplasm in my flat, and I also photographed ectoplasm. Here's a tenuous link to all the people we know. I saw ectoplasm once and I got a photograph of the ectoplasm at James Gilliland's ranch when I was there once back in the day for 3 days with my night vision goggles. And the funny thing is that here's a hilarious story. I ended up at his ranch thinking I was going to Mount Shasta, and I was actually to Mount Adams, and that was linked to him messaging me saying, would you like to meet your Pleiadian family? And I thought, oh, he must live in Mount Shasta, but he lived in Mount Adams. So I ended up getting this whole story of going there. And then it's always crazy. Like, here's a crazy, so on that flight to where I thought was going to Mount Shasta, but was Mount Adams, ended up sat next to a lady who talked about mystical experiences, and her dad was in the Dukes of Hazzard. So, you know, you meet all these interesting people on your mystical journeys, and maybe that's a, you know, angelic intervention that we're meant to cross paths with all these beings. And, you know, sometimes we say, I think sort of like the 1990s, which was the era of Doreen Virtue before she renounced her whole work. But, you know, everything was about angels then. It was very much, we talked about angels a lot, wasn't it? And, you know, we would talk about manifesting a parking space. I always ask my parking angel to manifest a parking space. And I, you know, I always manifest parking spaces just by the pure intent of my being. But I think with angelic beings, it's sometimes it's just, and I told my story about putting my hand up in the first part of this, but I think you don't necessarily see beings. I don't necessarily see them. I feel the energy. Like the time when I did that session with you, do you remember how long ago was that? 2 years ago, or maybe it was a year and a half ago?
Was it when I came to you for when Jeff died? Yeah. So he died on the Lionsgate 2 years ago yesterday, on the 8th, 2 days ago yesterday. Yeah, so it was 2 years, in the last 2 years.
But what I didn't share with you was when I was doing that beautiful session to help with your grief at the time, but there was this angelic presence in this house here. It was like a wind blew in. I never told you this. It was like a wind blew in. And, you know, it can often go very cold when it's an angelic being, but the energy was there for quite some time while I was talking to you, really intensely, super intensely.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that live on BoobTube. But as I've spoken many times about my beloved Jeff, who is now in heaven, he seriously was a massive angelic presence, like for real. I mean, he was the manliest man I ever met. Like he was like a Marine. He was built like a brick shit house, as we'd say in England, but he had the biggest heart. There's no but, it's an and inclusive. He was just so beautiful. So I'm sure that was him turning up also behind you to breathe life into me, because I was in a pretty bad way, as you know. And that again, grief, you know, grief, as we said the other day, like me, I still have my days when I will fall apart, I will scream, I will cry. I was coming up the mountain last night, coming up, all of a sudden I'm bawling, crying. I'm like, why am I bawling, crying? Well, because you died yesterday, 2 years ago, and the day itself, I was kind of okay, but we gotta let it flow through. Was it you that was talking about some awful person made their lover burn photographs of an ex, a dead ex, and the woman, it must have been something I read. How awful. Anyone that is so jealous that they want you to get rid of pictures of your ex, there's something wrong with that. Like, you're not secure in your own relationship.
Well, also, and if they've passed away, gosh, if they hadn't passed away, you would never have met them anyway. So you need to be in immense gratitude, because maybe from the spirit world, they've put you together. You know, if it's a good relationship, right. I do, you know, sometimes from that realm of being, they're assisting, you know, because that's actually, you know, what happened with my mum and dad. My mum's first husband passed away when she was 31, you know, from a heart attack in the middle of the night. And, you know, my mum went on to meet my dad and have me, and she didn't have any children before that. So, you know, your life, you know, it's the embodiment, I suppose, of the resurrection, isn't it? It's like going to the base level of grief and then coming back from a really dark place, which is the journey. I don't think anybody on this planet doesn't eventually have experiences that knock them for six and they go to this really, really dark place. And then you've got to go through that experience and trust. It's about trusting, isn't it, that you will go through this resurrection of rising yourself up again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You know, you've touched on, of course, because it's you've touched on so many interesting areas. But, you know, and again, you know, people, and we're friends off camera. And so, and the thing is, I think it's only right and correct. You have such a responsibility, we do, if we have a platform, to really think about everything that we say. And we don't always have to agree, and we don't always agree, and that's fine. We can also have a healthy friendship. Everyone out there, you can have healthy friendships. You don't have to agree with everybody. It's like fancying, do I fancy Idris, that beautiful, handsome actress, Idris Elba, is it? Yeah, I think he's a right good looking, what's it, doodah. You know Idris? You know him, right?
I know the name. I can't see them.
Oh, he's just a gorgeous looking, beautiful man. And his voice to match as well. And so I think he's really attractive. And then so you might think that, you know, Elvis Presley, because I think he's gorgeous too. But I don't know, Wurzel Gummidge, let's just say. Let's just say that you fancy...
I don't know who Wurzel Gummidge was.
Wurzel Gummidge is a scarecrow. He's got a hat and straw, and he's like that. Good morning, Aunt Sally. Have a cup of tea and a slice of cake. Right, so say
that was it, an Aunt Sally.
Yeah, let's say that he's your ideal man. You know, I did not fancy Wurzel Gummidge, but it doesn't matter. But what if we both fancied Wurzel Gummidge? That's all right too, because neither of us are going to get him because he loves Aunt Sally. See, that's what I'm saying. So everyone's getting their knickers in a twist at the moment, and there's so much fighting and stabbing and arguing. I've even got pulled into a couple of little frays. I have. I mean, well, I can't imagine that, but I have.
I'm practicing my discernment to navigate my ways through these waters without, without getting sucked into other people's stuff. And that's great, because when you're working on things on a spiritual level, they don't go away straight away. They, often I say this to clients, it's like the echo of it is going to come back to you so that you can be given experience to go, oh, I see what this is. I'm not going to fall for this again. Or maybe I am going to fall for it again, because maybe there's something else I need to learn from that experience. But once you've kind of mastered that thing, it carries on for a bit, because it's going to give you more of the same until you've mastered it. And then it disappears to show you're not in vibrational alignment to that anymore. But as we go through life, you can think, oh, I'm really holding a high frequency at the moment, and then something happens and your frequency can temporarily be knocked for six, and that temporarily could take you weeks, months, or years to get your mojo back up again.
Yeah, depending on the level of trauma or upset or interruption. So one of the things I wanted to go back a little bit more and take care of is my view on spelling. Here is my deep understanding. This is my understanding. If you, let's say I put a spell on someone, I would be the dumbest ass in the universe if I actually thought that I'm so clever and special at my spells and really high and that up my own ass, that my spell isn't going to bounce back to me. That as I put energy, that I need my energy to make that spell work by the very definition of my even thinking about it and creating it and casting it. So that's going to come back on me. That's number one. I've always been amazed that I think people are so dumb that they honestly think that they're protected from their own energy that they're sending out. That's number one. Just look at their lives. Their lives are falling apart. Show me a witch who's got it all sorted out. Show me a person whose spells has got everything just tickety-boo. Yeah, please. I'd love to see it. And the other thing is, I think that people that pay someone to do a spell, it's a double bubble. People pay people.
I might be a bit naive.
Not at all. Not at all. When I was on television, same time as you, 2008, 2009, 2010, those years, I worked with a ton of, they call themselves psychics on live television. And some of those women were doing spells. And I sat one down. She was a very unkind person. And I said to her, you get it, right? You get it. You understand that what you're doing, A, is evil and wrong, in my opinion. She's like, no, don't come back to me. It don't come back to me. They pay, they suffer. I'm like, no, you little Oompa Loompa. No, no. You put it out, you get it back. And this was a woman who was convinced of her hierarchical, and we weren't friends. We never were friends, just so we're clear. I don't want to play in that pond. I never have, I never will. But if I see somebody being cruel and unkind, I have the confidence to say, yo, bitch. Come on, guys.
Well,
you know what we're saying. We need to be really careful these days.
Maybe people, I think maybe they're just stuck in their past lives and doing what they did in their other lifetimes, and it didn't work for them then. It's probably not working for them now, but they've got to figure all that out themselves until, because there's people here, I think, because I live in Glastonbury.
Yes.
So there's people here, there's all kinds of witchy-wooey shops here, but, it's kind of like they're not in my reality. I'm just cherry picking what suits my vibration and reality, and it's not my thing really. And I do know people who have been through training in the other stuff that we talked about, and then they've come out the other side, and I'm like, how did that work for you? And they're like, oh, it wasn't particularly good, but I had to go through that, and I couldn't take their experience, like you're saying to that lady, you can't take their experience away from them with the wisdom that you're showing, that it's probably not a good path to go along. Maybe they have to learn by experience, and there's nothing we can do. Glenda the Good Witch, it's a bit like the Wizard of Oz, isn't it? She meets Glenda the Good Witch, and then there's the other one that frazzles up and disappears, and doesn't the house fall on her, I think?
Yes, The wicked witch of the east, I think, and a house fell on her. A house upon you. A house upon you, lady, for your evilness. Yeah, no, guys, I'm sorry out there. If I seem so distracted and even more ADD today. I did actually eat some crackers that I probably shouldn't have done, and I can just feel the incongruency in my biome. But also, I had.
But, you know, talking about, you know, when you just said about the ADD, the thing is, though, I think you're the same as me. If I'm not interested in something, I have zero patience. But if you think about the work we do, if you're sat in regression with a client for 2 hours, you can't move. You know, you're literally regressing somebody for 2 hours or sometimes even longer. And we're really into it. We have infinite focus, 100%. You can't drift off and talk to your friend on the phone, and you've really got to be 100%. Yeah. So do we really have ADD, or do we just have zero tolerance for anything that we're not interested in?
I don't know, I'm thinking like 15, 16. I was working with a mother with a beautiful autistic child the other day, and I was explaining to her, you know, how the autistic child, depending on what level of the spectrum they're on, they're so brilliant. They're out there. They ain't got time for this slow mechanical machine. This is way too frustrating. They're light speed, they're warp speed. So yeah, ooh, goosebumps, angelic bumps coming in there.
And here's a tenuous link again, because I think
not another tenuous link, Andrea.
I happened to interview George, the high functioning autistic starseed, the other day. I did a lovely little interview with George on my YouTube channel. If anyone's interested in hearing, because it was quite interesting what we shared, you know, and I think a lot of us are probably on that very high functioning level, you know, because there are very many levels of autism, and, you know, some are, like you said with your client, and I have a client whose son it's really challenging. It is not an easy path to have a child on that level of autism. So I don't think we can say they're all, you know, but he is very highly functioning and super delightful and, you know, a real starseed.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I watched it. So Andrea Foulkes on YouTube, Andrea Foulkes, Foulkes, Andrea Foulkes. Yeah, interviewed this beautiful, and he's such a handsome, sweet young man, and big blue eyes, and you could see him processing, you know, it's processing. Another really high functioning example of ADD and slight on the spectrum is my friend Laura Eisenhower. And the very first time I interviewed her on her life, it's like one of the first interviews ever on my channel. You know, I'd already noticed in other interviews that she talks so quick, she pulls in so much brilliant intel and information, but she'll often look to the side while she's thinking. You know, when I was doing my kids movie, the Kids Soul Speak documentary, I reached out to a woman who made one of the most beautiful commercials I've ever seen in my life. It was made in black and white, and it was one child after another, all different ages. You could all see they had something, some special gift that they were dealing with. And each child came forward, they would say things like, please don't take my recess away or my break time away. I need that. Please let me move around the classroom if I'm feeling that I need to. Please let me sit with my stress balls. Please let me rock and don't make fun of me. It was all things like that. And I remember saying to this lady, please, can I put that in the film? It's so beautiful. It's going to help so many parents. But she wouldn't let me. She said, no, it's got 50,000 views at this stage. We're doing well, thank you. And I thought, wow, you know, I did have a bit of a judgment on that. I thought, oh my God, if one mum saw that, one dad saw that, one grandparent saw that, you know, it would help them, you know, relate more and, or, you know. Anyway, anywho, so angels. Back to angels. Did you want to share a specific story with Archangel Gabriel that you had?
I did share it. Do you remember?
Did I miss it? Was it in this section or the other?
I think it was in part one. I shared my story about holding the hand of Archangel Gabriel. I did share it.
Okay.
Don't worry, I have short-term memory loss due to
well, it's not that I
energy.
I remember you said you had your hand in the sky, but I don't remember you.
The rest of it.
I don't remember you saying that it was Archangel Gabriel that you were holding. Okay, well, let's retell that
But
story.
I didn't.
Andrea, how do you know it was him? How do you know?
Well, that's the thing. I didn't. That's the interest. Good question. I didn't know it was him, but my hand would not come down. It wouldn't come down, and because of the level of what I was experiencing, you know, if it was really a negative thing, I can't think that would be a really lovely benevolent being, you know, if it was a negative experience I was having. But I've been meditating, and I was really in my heart, like super like, you know, oh, I am so in my heart. I'd had this amazing experience that were getting me really into my heart. And so I'd been meditating. And that is why I believe meditation, not just laying there into oblivion, you can add that at the end of your meditation. But I really believe the correct guided meditations are the gift that keeps giving. And I think that for so many people is just getting a guided meditation is the beginning of so many people's spiritual journey, even before they reach out to do development groups or have a one-to-one session with someone. You know, everybody can go and get a guided meditation. There's lots for free. I don't know if Dani has free ones on her website. I have some on mine, and there are paid ones as well. But that is the gift that keeps giving. And then you can add your own bit onto the end of the meditation. So I was doing the end of the meditation, holding my hand up, this benevolent energy came, and I could feel the energy of it being benevolent, and you know, knowing the difference between negative energy and benevolent energy, and was just showing me all these people I'd known in this lifetime who'd passed away, and showing me from such a high frequency place that is beyond words, energetically, the impression they'd had on my life and the gift that I'd got from the experience of knowing these people who'd passed over. And then it moved on from the people that I had passed away to all the people I dated. A little roll call then rolled on of all these people I dated that were still in physical incarnation, but it was like a graduating timeline because these people are still alive, but it was helping me on such a high level to resolve all these relationships, you know, or people I'd just gone on a couple of dates with. Just all of them were being shown to me energetically by this angelic presence that didn't have white fluffy feathers or even a physical presence. It just had an energy that was helping me, and I couldn't pull my hand down while I was having this experience. But I think that helped me to really evolve, you know, like it was clearing something so I could move forward into another part of my life.
Yeah, that's just incredible. It's incredible. You know, there are so many people that will hear that story, for example, and if they've never had an angelic experience, then be like, I want to see an angel, I want to see an angel, I want to see an angel. I understand that completely. They're not all good, guys. Some of them disguise themselves as angels. And here's one such story. So years ago, I was a nursery nurse, and I was taking care of a newborn little boy, and the mother was getting rest. So I, as the maternity nurse, with the child. And I remember waking up and seeing an angelic presence standing over this newborn baby. And my first thought was, because I've seen so much from my own tiny babiness to this moment in time. And then the very quantum second I had was, oh, shit. Because what I was witnessing was a man standing over the baby like this. The man had short, dark hair, like a monk cut, like those horrible old-fashioned black bowl cuts. And he was naked, which was very odd and peculiar. I mean, not so much as a, you know, a thong, whatever you would call it. Ordinarily, I would joke, but this isn't funny. So he's standing over the baby like this. And so if I hadn't known what I know, I would have been like, oh, there's an angel. Instead, my predator warrior attacker came out, and that angelic nonsense got the shock of its life, and its bare ass got quite the boot, let me tell you. And that's the thing, even as humans, we cannot be afraid of these things that we perceive to be spiritual. You know, we are the ones in the body. We are the powerful ones, not they. So let's just be careful about wishing for something and then not recognizing if the frequency is
yeah, and I think that's the thing, is like I've seen it with clients who they genuinely believe this being that's attached to them is their guide, and then after some conversation in the, you know, regression state, we figure out it's not actually a benevolent being, and they've hoovered it up from somewhere and it needs to be on its merry way now. And that's, you know, learning discernment. But I think that's part of the experience of being in a physical body, is mastering this discernment. And some of us come in with more levels of discernment than others, and it's just how it is. You know, we are souls all with these myriad incarnations and experiences. You know, you might be a really evolved being on another planet, you know, you might be a really high frequency being, but you come to Earth and you're like, oh my God, I feel like I'm a baby beginner here. This all feels, you know, and I see that with clients. I see people who they've maybe not incarnated into this planet many times, or they've incarnated here mainly into elemental form. And so if you've incarnated into elemental form, you might be very knowledgeable about the elemental realms, but the physical human realm might seem really very strange and challenging for you. And I think it's once you understand yourself on a soul level, you become more kind to yourself and more forgiving of yourself.
Can you tell everybody out there that may not know what the elementals are?
The elementals, and of course there are good and bad in all of those, but the elementals are the fairies, the pixies, the nature spirits, the little goblins. They're the more naughty ones, although there are good fairies and naughty fairies. And I learnt my lesson the hard way myself by being a little bit too dismissive of some little fairies once upon a time. And those naughty little fairies took my blusher brush and hid it. I had to realize that it was linked, what it was linked to, and they literally put it back on the top of my makeup bag.
That's amazing. You know, it strikes me that there'll be people out there, you know, having a glass of wine and a beer or a coffee and maybe catch upon this little broadcast we're doing, and they'll be like, what bonkers, nutters, crazy girls, yeah, and we're both single. Just kidding. You know, but when we go to that level of conversation, see, we can go so far with the angels, because a lot of the programming in humanity is that's acceptable because it's in Bibles. Even in Islam, they love and adore the Archangel Gabriel, right? But once you start going into the elementals, the fairies, a lot of people aren't able to stretch their mind around the corner and give themselves an opening into this could be a possibility. Now, you didn't say about the gnomes. What I understand about the gnomes, and I never believed it. I thought it was all bollocks. I thought it was all just from that beautiful writer Enid Blyton and her imagination, until I met a man who was very, very stern and loving with me and said, Dani, do you not understand what the gnome's role is? I'm like, no, you mean they're real? He said, they are the ones who help to seed the plants in the forests and the redwoods and the trees. They have an extremely important, beautiful role on our planet. I'm like, okay, you sound like a crazy person. Did you take your medication? Because that response right there is what we've been programmed to have. Oh, no, crazy, no UFOs, no aliens, no angels, no fairies. You know, we've all been had, everyone. We've all been lied to on every level. You've been dismissed as a muppet, as a crazy person. It's times now, it's conversations like this that bring you gently into your own awareness. It's okay, it all exists, and it always has, and it always will. Andrea, no.
And a lot of children see the fairies. In fact, one of my goddaughters once, she was telling me about the fairies, and I could see her mum going, oh, here we go. But, you know, instead of dismissing, you know, this is the thing, good parenting won't dismiss the child's experience. We'll go, oh, how is that? What are you seeing? What are you experiencing? You know, obviously nowadays, a lot of children are exposed to this through lots of things on social media and fairies, but back in the day, in the more innocent times when we existed in our childhood, there were less things to know about you know, fairies and things, so people would see them. You know, I went into a shop once and I was looking at these dresses that this lady had created. I was thinking, how on earth has she made those dresses? Because these are just like, wow, I don't know how she's made them. And I went in the shop and we got chatting, and then she shut the door and she was like, I have to tell you, I've not made these dresses alone. I said, no, I didn't think you had. And she said, yes, I'm helped by the fairies and the elementals. And it was obvious to see that this level of gossamer creation that she'd made, it would be very hard to make that by the hand of a clumsy human, that there was some ethereal help helping her.
How lovely. Where was this dress shop?
I think it was near, what's that place called, near, from Chichester, you come back further and it begins with a H. Oh, my brain, it's somewhere, a little village going towards Chichester way.
Okay, if you can think of it, say it, because obviously that's something lovely that people would love to know, you know, that these
whether her shop's still there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, but there's still some magic. You know, we're all very much drawn to magical areas, you know, we really are. It's like Glastonbury where you live, and then we have Avebury, which is where you can actually go and touch. How many standing stones like Stonehenge are there? 30, 40 more? I mean, they're just, you can go there, guys, and touch the stones. Go there. And also, as you're going into that village, we have Silbury Hill, which is our man-made prehistoric pyramid covered in grass. I've climbed it 6 times. I always say that, but I have. You took a picture in front of it last week on Facebook.
I sang a light language. Tenuous link again back to YouTube. I did a lovely light language at Silbury Hill. And the other thing that people don't know, and I've yet to get there and check it out myself, is there's another hill. Marlborough is just a few miles down the road from Silbury Hill, but there's another one of these hidden pyramid mounds at the back of Marlborough College, which is a girls' school. And at the gateway to this town called Marlborough is one of these other hidden pyramids in the back of the school garden.
I climbed that too, illegally, and I got caught. I got caught coming down with my friend Michelle. And because when you're on that mound coming down, it's called Merlin's Mound. And it really is like, here's Silbury Hill, and then you go straight diagonal a few miles inside the beautiful ancient Marlborough College, and this mound is inside the grounds. So me and Michelle are up there and we're doing water blessings, and you know, she's not, she kind of puts up with me. You know, she's like, all right, Dani, and I'll be like, hello, angels, hello, Davis, I love you, thank you so much, and, you know, honoring the spirits. And then we were coming down, and there was like maybe 1 or 2 like really skinny trees. So you're completely on show. And as we're coming down, these teachers are coming across the car park, and they're looking up at these stupid women. They're like, what are you doing up there? Because it's cordoned off. You're not allowed up there, right? It's not going to hurt it. It's thousands of years old. They just don't want anyone up there because they just don't want anyone up there. It's that simple. So my friend Michelle, she tried to hide behind a tree this thin, right? And she's hiding like this, and I'm standing behind her, and I can't stop laughing. You know, when you're like a naughty girl, you've been caught, and it's like, don't laugh, don't laugh. I was bent over screaming because Michelle's like this. She seriously thinks no one's going to see it behind this skinny tree. And the teachers are like, we're in our 40s when this happened. And these teachers are like, come down, you silly girls. Like that. So I screaming, laughing. They start coming up the mound. We shit ourselves. But we found a way up to the side. And I'm like, oh my God, that was like being 12. It was brilliant. It was brilliant. But there is a third mound. Where is the third mound?
Well, there's West Kennet, and then there's the Long Barrow, but I don't know where the third mound is. But you remind me of another story that I had, a bit like you, getting told off. I find this often with our energy. I do find sometimes adults want to tell us off. So I'm at the temples of Delphi in Greece with my friend Susie, who cracks me up. Like from the minute she appears, we're just laughing like children. So I'm at the temples of Delphi saying to Susie, I'm going to sing some light language now at the temples of Delphi. Adelphi. And I'm singing away. And this woman comes over and tells me that I can't sing at the temples of Delphi. I've come all this way to sing again at the temple after having had a past life as an oracle at the temples of Delphi. I'm coming back to sing at the temples of Delphi. So out of my mouth comes, who do you think you are, my mother? You can't tell me not to sing at the temples of Delphi to this lady. And I just carry on singing. And maybe it's something that triggers, you know, their past life stuff of seeing someone being liberated, being themselves. And maybe, you know, it's like their repressed self gets angry by our free-spirited self, do you think?
Totally. I think that the restrictive notion in people who are so uptight and they have this overburdening desire to control and shut you up, because that's happened to them. So they're on this journey of like, I mean, they're the dangerous ones, actually. You know, the disgusting filth that runs the planet that call themselves elite. The people that kiss their butts, the people that worship them, they're really dangerous because they think they're going to be saved by the elites, which they're not. But they're also like keep stabbing and killing and maiming and murdering and trying to keep everyone repressed because that's how they've been raised. That's the murderous frustration in them. So I do think that there is people that program that way, and you know, they should just chill out and relax. So I was looking after these teenagers. One was a girl, one was a boy, and they both had and they're two different families. They had very religious, intentional upbringing from parents, but they had lots of social anxiety. So it was decided that I would take them to what's called church dance or dance church. And we were just going to go hang. There were going to be people there from religious backgrounds, that's what their parents were pleased. And we might just be doing some dancing and some movement and some of this and some of that. And I remember I'd taken this young lady, she was 13 years old, and the music starts. It was great music. There's people dancing, some together, some alone. And I take this little girl's hand and I just hold her hand and I say, just follow me. We'll just move side to side. And she's looking in my eyes. I'm like, it's okay. I got you. I got you. You're safe. It's okay. I'm saying, how do you feel? I'm whispering. I'm like, how do you feel? How do you feel? She said, it's okay. It's okay. She said, can I just stare into your eyes? I went, yeah. So we're just moving side to side. Anyway, this old bag comes over. Right. And I noticed this old bag. She was trying to be one with the hula hoop. She was with a hula hoop, but she was one with the hula hoop. You know, she was one. And she comes over with the hula hoop, like round her head. And she went, no talking. I couldn't believe it. I about slapped her silly. I restrained myself. And this poor little girl, she froze. Because some adults coming over again and getting in her face and spoiling her fun. And I just looked at the lady and I said, be quiet and step away. And I said it like that. I said it like that. And she did. She moved back. And I just said to this little girl, to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right. We just continued. Now, during that same hour, me and the young lady go and sit down, and now it's me and the boy, and he's a great big boy. He's 12 years old, beautiful kid, Arthur, 12 years old. And Arthur's been watching, you know, the dancing, and he's getting his confidence, and now he wants to get up. So he gets up, and this really, you know, kind of jazz funk piece comes on, and he's jigging around. I'm jigging with him. I'm like, come on, Arthur, show me your best move. Show me your best move. And Arthur, he starts doing a moonwalk, but like jabbing with his arms, and he slams into that woman. He slams into that woman. But by this time, the woman she told me this later, by this time, that woman has gone from being one with the hula hoop, and now she was pretending to be an invisible mouse. So that silly cow was against the wall in the corner, pretending to be an invisible mouse. And then this giant boy comes over and kicks her. Now, you mentioned instant karma earlier, me thinking of instant karma. And, you know, and that's what you get. She tried to restrict this little girl with no confidence who was just walking out. It's like, people, chill out. Stop trying to run rules. We're all on a journey somewhere. We're all going through something somewhere, you know. And I say that old bag. Of course, I've got compassion for that woman too, even though she hurt the heart of this little girl. And I didn't want to see her being an invisible mouse. So she did a really good job of being invisible, though, let's face it. But, you know, I didn't find that funny that she got kicked by the giant boy either, you know. Before I come back to you, I want to share one more quick story about angels and the angels that you and I have seen between us. So years ago, I was flying from America to England. I was staying at a family home and I just was so exhausted and I laid down and I was going to sleep and I heard this giggle. And I opened my eyes, and I have told this story before, but I opened my eyes and right above me are two beautiful babies. They both have blue eyes and blonde hair. One had curly hair, the little boy, the little girl had straight hair. And then the second quantum thinking I have is like, oh my God, they're cherub baby angels. And they were above the bed. And my other thought was, because you can't believe that you're seeing these physical, beautiful, beautiful babies right there. And they had a glow around them. And then the other thought, I couldn't believe how tiny their wings were. And my mind is going, it's not gravitationally possible. No amount of physics is going to give you, you know, the mathematical equation that's going to support that gravitational need to keep those baby angels up. And as I'm looking at them and they're looking down, they giggled and they just went backwards to nothing. They just literally disappeared. And I remember thinking, that was real. I'm not hallucinating. I don't never do drugs. And I saw them and then I realized that, well, when you look at the paintings of the Renaissance period.
Yeah, what are they drawing?
Because that's what they would see. And so for me, I got it. That's what I got from that. Not to mention, how many Renaissance paintings are there that actually depict in the background UFOs? How many?
Exactly.
Many.
A lot. I would love to chat more, but as you know, I'm now being forced to be Victoria Plum. She was a little fairy who made, I think she made things that she was quite big in the UK with her stationery and things when we were children. But the shop that sells the organic sugar, and I don't normally eat sugar, but I've got to make these plums into jam, closes and the plums will die and wither away if I don't go and make them now.
Bless you.
So I have to go to make my plum jam.
Because your plum tree fell down.
Because my plum tree fell down.
That left you a heart shape. A heart shape.
It's left me about, I don't know, I've got about 400 or more plums over there.
Amazing, amazing. How beautiful is nature? Yeah. And the reward of the plum tree shelling and falling. And now you have to make jam to give away to people so they can enjoy the gifts of that plum tree. Beautiful. Andrea Foulkes, always a joy to chat with you, even though we go up and down all around the galaxy. Much love to you too, darling.
Enjoy it.
I know.
Bye, everyone. Much love. Bye. Bye.
Bye, darling. See you soon.
Bye.
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 And to you guys out there, thank you so much for being here. I am Dani Henderson, spiritual therapist, and I will see you soon.
Is that it? Yeah.
No. No, the mouse isn't working. The mouse isn't working. It's not.
We're still recording.
We're still recording. Okay, I might just have to shut the whole thing down, sweetie. I think so. All right.
It wants to carry on.
It does. All right, love. Love you. I'll see you later.
Love you. Bye. Bye.
Oh, I'm gonna be stuck on YouTube. I'm gonna be stuck here recording. Oh my God.